Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a little bit, but I had a pretty busy past few weeks, and then it's been like the holiday weekend with Easter and everything like that. So I just kind of I just needed to have some time to kind of regroup everything and kind of get everything organized and kind of remember what I did with my recent trip to California and all that jazz and stuff like that. So I was going to go through my California trip. I got a little bit of everything in this video here. I'm going to go through some record stores I went to. I went to a record show, and then I want to even have like kind of a mini record store showcase to one of the record stores I went to in San Diego as well. So you're going to get a little bit of everything. You're going to start off with me showing some items that I got here, and then go to a little bit of some videos from the record store I went to, and then I'll be more showing some more items after that. So I have a couple voiceovers and a couple live kind of videos here. And to start off, I did go to California for a kicking combine. Unfortunately, it wasn't my best day out there, but it kind of happens. So we'll kind of see what goes on with that later in the future. I might have to get a kind of a part-time job just in the meantime if that doesn't really work out. But it is what it is when you're trying to do something not too many people can do is play some professional sports. So in the meantime, I got some records to show and CDs and things like that. So we're gonna have a good time going through everything I got here. And when I flew in to California, one of the first things me and my mom went there to California was meet up with my friend John, and of course we went straight to Amoeba. Pretty much got off the plane, dropped off some things at the hotel, and then he was like, "Well, might as well." So this was the day before the record show, and it was a Vinyl Con in Los Angeles. So I kind of had that in the back of my mind. I was like, don't necessarily need to get too much if there's anything at Amoeba. So luckily or unluckily, they didn't have a ton of stuff that I was looking for, but I kind of found some more cheaper items, including a CD box I've been trying to find for a while. And I'm gonna go. Might as well start with that. And this is pretty cool packaging of George Harrison's Brainwashed album. It's a nice box with kind of some kind of nice spot shine. So you got the Brainwash type typesetting up there, and then you got the Dark Horse label, and then the signature of George at the bottom, and then on the back you got the track listing there with the kind of the picture of George in the back. And this is a pretty cool package. You just kind of open up here, and the first thing you see is the actual album with the CD there. It has a little booklet inside, and there's the CD. Here's the booklet. Here's kind of the standard packaging for the standard release for the CD. And then it also comes with kind of a mini poster. Inside a poster here, it's primarily, let's see, you got the main kind of album cover there, and then you also got that nice picture of George, like it did on the back cover there. So that's always a nice little poster. Try and get this folded back safely. There we go. It's a nice poster to go along with it. And then it also comes with a DVD as well. I believe it just goes through the making of the album. If I remember correctly, yeah, it says making of footage featuring George, Danny, and Jeff Lynne video. It's about a 7-minute video, according to the Discogs information. So there is the sleeve. And then here is the DVD, matching kind of the sleeve. There you go. So I don't think I've seen this before. So I'll have to pop it in the old DVD player and see what it looks like. And then there's a couple more bonus goodies. I found one of these boxes before, but it was missing an item, so I passed on it. I'm glad I waited. So that's what the inside the box looks like. And then it comes with a Dark Horse sticker. No one has used the sticker yet. And then the one thing that was missing on the other box when I first had a chance to buy this was the George Harrison guitar pick. So this one luckily had it, and I was like, I'll take that. and I'm quite happy to get that brainwashed, I guess, variation you can say. And I believe the actual CD itself and the kind of the standard release are the same thing, so I'll probably just sell off the other CD, even though it's I'm not going to get too much for it anyway. But that's better than nothing. And then I picked up one more CD, and I didn't even know this compilation was out there, but it came out in 2014, and part of kind of the Icon series. I think John Lennon has one, and you got Ringo Starr here, and it's kind of an official. Well, it is an official. I've got Apple Capital and the UME logo there. So there's the back, and then the inside is pretty plain with the label there. And I kind of bought this knowing that I was like, yeah, it's going to be typical Ringo greatest hits. And you'll be right, it's on here. But there was a couple other ones that were surprising when I was listening through it. You got that King of Broken Hearts, which is pretty nice to hear. And then one I was not expecting at all. It was a song called Walk With You that was featuring Paul McCartney on background vocals. And it came out with the Why Not album from 2010. I would say pretty much one of the only songs on that album worth listening to. It is a pretty nice song, I would say, but I was not expecting to hear that on this type of compilation. So that was kind of a nice surprise. And then the last album I got from Amoeba Records was got a record here, and it's Elton John and featuring John Lennon and the Muscle Shoals horns. So I haven't had this one picked up. Not quite a 12-inch single, not quite a album. I believe it has 7 songs. Has 7 songs on it. So the first side is more Elton John stuff, and then you got the John Lennon on the last 3 songs. The Whatever Gets You Through the Night, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and then I Saw Her Standing There. And here is the label. And this is a German released album. So that was all I picked up from Amoeba. Again, knowing that VinylCon was the very next day, I'm glad I got a few things, but nothing that broke the bank per se. So we'll head over to the VinylCon section next. Okay, so VinylCon. Wasn't really too sure what to expect because I've been to a few different record shows from a couple different states now, and this was going to be my third record show in a third different state. So I was expecting it to be pretty big, pretty crowded, because it's also Los Angeles and all things like that, and to find some good stuff. And so when I first walked in there was a line that it's inside the building, and then you kind of had a walk path around at the actual space. So if you had the line starting here to get in, the line went all the way around there, and so that was a pretty big line to to wait, but it went through pretty quick. I didn't get there on the early bird, I guess you can say, because I just I just don't want to spend the extra $20 I think it is to get to the early bird. So I think I got there right around 12 for that's when the kind of the standard tickets are kind of the time allotted for you to go. So we got there, and then yeah, it was a pretty massive room with vendors kind of everywhere. They had a DJ and some food stations as well, and it was pretty dang packed. Like again, some of the record shows I go to in Alabama, like they get packed sometimes, but typically you're still able to move and look through like the same vendor as you. But for this one, you definitely might have had to wait behind a group of people to kind of then go look. So that was kind of definitely interesting. I didn't really get too many pictures or videos from my phone, but I'm sure I'll throw up some pictures and videos from like kind of other people and experiences and like maybe from the official VinylCon site and things like that. So I'll probably throw up some pictures while I'm talking about it. And also something I wasn't really too uh, familiar with in terms of kind of certain types of vendors that sometimes they focus on different or specific genres of music or so I wasn't really too I haven't seen that a whole lot. So at least that was an easy thing to kind of like go by was like, okay, they're not going to have any Beatles or solo Beatles stuff that I'm looking for. And then there's also the vendor that doesn't label anything, and things like that. I just kind of move on because I just can't really spend the time to look through for maybe one record that I probably already have. So we kind of me and my friend John, we did some hunting to find some good sellers, and I got pretty much most of my stuff from one seller. And other than that, it was actually kind of sparse for things I was looking for. Rockaway was there, but they pretty much had the super high end, top dollar Beatles stuff, and none of the kind of like the more standard things like that. So I didn't really get anything from them, but I will talk about them later in the video. And so I was going through vendors. It was just kind of seeing more common stuff for prices kind of around retail or if not a little above. So I really try to pick and choose my spots, and then picked up a couple things here and there. And then there was this one seller that had a lot of cool, unique Beatles records from other countries. So I ended up getting the majority uh, of money that I spent with that seller. But we'll get there. I think I ended up getting 3 records there, and the other 2 items I just kind of found out uh, in the other vendors. So I think this was the first thing I bought, and we got Beatles A Hard Day's Night, and this is a reissue. I thought the inner sleeve was pretty cool as well, from 1968. So there is the back. So I believe this is going to be on the black and pink, or the pink and orange label. So I thought that was really nice to see. And this variation within the pink and orange doesn't have the Beatles on top on the label. So that's a very nice label, pretty nice condition as well. And again, the inner sleeve looks pretty cool as well. I'll get these all cleaned up here once I get some more sleeves in. But overall, nice shape and a pretty nice US variation to start off the record show. And then the other 45 I got was a pretty cool one. Again, the vendor just kind of had a small batch of 45s. This is like $10 a piece, but there was a Ringo 45 from Germany here, which I thought was pretty nice. We got what is that? Don't Come Easy, and then early 1970. So I thought it was pretty neat. I had a little convincing from my friend to like, yeah, you can get it. So that's what the back looks like. And then of course it's on the German Apple label here. A little dusty, but very clean overall. So like I said, these next 3 are going to be from one seller. And that was pretty much it for VinylCon. It was kind of very overwhelming, but I also didn't really find a whole lot of stuff per se. So it was definitely interesting show. But I've been looking for some of these records for a long time, so it was worth it in the end for sure. But I'll start off with the 45. Uh, I pretty much got this thrown in for free essentially, but it was a UK pressing of Yellow Submarine and Eleanor Rigby. So I'm slowly working on the UK original singles there. But these next 2, specifically one, I've been wanting to have this particular label for a very long time. So this seller is from New Zealand originally, and I think he still periodically goes back there. And New Zealand has a very cool and unique label for Beatles records, or Parlophone label, and I've been wanting one for a long time. And it is on this very nice blue Parlophone label. I'm not even going to show you what record it is first, but it's with the Beatles, and I've been wanting this label for a very long time. I even had some friends from New Zealand in college that they played some sports, and I was like, hey, if you're ever at a record store, just see if they have any original Beatles Beatles records whenever you go back home. And I think one of them did, but they said even those are pretty tough to find, even in New Zealand. So here is the With the Beatles. Now, the original first pressing of With the Beatles is on the black old school Parlophone label. This one is like an early 60s reissue, but I was okay with that because I really wanted the label. But here's the back. It's a mono. It's got a cool mono sticker. There's a couple variations on Discogs. I couldn't find the exact one with an exact year, but I think it's around 1967-ish. But yeah. Anyway, again, I was just happy to find that label and finally add it to the collection. And then I got one more New Zealand record, which was a first pressing um, of Magical Mystery Tour, which first came out in 1970. So that's what it looks like. The full title is Magical Mystery Tour and Other Splendid Hits. I'll take this one out of the sleeve here. So they were kind of in a rush to kind of get these out. I think in 1970, what the seller told me is that they didn't even have to. They didn't even wait for correct kind of Apple or Parlophone labels, things like that. Maybe Apple labels. So they put it on this World Record Club label, and I believe that's how you kind of indicate first pressing to reissues. And to even go further down, there this logo right here. This is the detailed version, and then a later repress is like the it's not as detailed. But yeah, there's a very cool label there of Magical Mystery Tour, and there is the B side, and the Matrix number goes with the U.S. Original 1967 pressing. So it's even got the Scranton triangle on there as well. So that's kind of interesting. But that will do it for all the stuff that I got from VinylCon. And then pretty much after that, I went to San Diego to get ready for the combine. And then after I did that, I stopped by Folk Art Records again for the second time in my second trip. And I took some videos of me flipping through that. So I'll probably start adding those in now. And then I'll show you what I'll get after all the videos and things like that. All right, I am back. Hopefully you enjoyed kind of those flip through videos and that kind of mini record store kind of showcase from San Diego, California. So a very nice, I say solid used record stores for sure. I definitely would have like to have something like that near me. And I got a little bit of everything from the record store. Probably the best. I would say probably one of the best spots where I got stuff from this entire trip. Got a CD, bunch of 45s, and some LPs to go with it. So I want to start off from smallest to largest here. We're going to start off with CD. This is John Lennon rock and roll music, and then this has 4 bonus tracks. So there is the main listing here, and then the bonus tracks are over here. So again, I typically like to get some of the solo CDs if they got bonus tracks on them. And I don't know what's in here. Let's see. And some nice pictures of John there from the early years, and then the track listing as well. So there we go. And then we'll move on to the 45s next. So they had a big old box of 45s, and I was kind of jammed in there, so I wasn't really able to get a video, and I kind of had to sort those out pretty soon. There's a lot of reissue type records in there, so I needed to check a lot of stuff on my lists on my phone and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of U.S. reissues in there, so it was kind of good to see from what I was looking for. And we're just going to start off with a 1969 version of Ticket to Ride, and yes, it is on the orange and yellow Target Capital label. You're going to probably see a few more of these down the road of what I'm going to share. And also on these, there's also a 1971 version that has the white dot and the capital C. And then I think there's also another 1969 version that has the capital dome logo instead of this logo. So there's a few different variations on this 45 in itself. All right, next one we're going to go to 76, and we got Long and Winding Road on the orange capital label here, back with For You Blue. And then we're going to 78 on the purple capital with We Can Work It Out and Day Tripper. And then here's one of the ones from 1971 I was talking about. It had the white dot, but it comes with the company sleeve, which is always nice, of Yesterday and Act Naturally. And then one of the better finds from all these kind of reissues, I was actually kind of going through some of these US 45s and seeing which ones I have and putting stuff on my want list and things like that. But this Matchbox and Slow Down is a pretty tough one to find reissue-wise, at least for this label. And they actually had two of them, but I just picked this one up. I think it was in the better shape. So got Matchbox and Slow Down. And then for whatever reason, this one seems to go for a good bit of money for a reissue 45. Like I think some Discogs are like some sold for $20 to $30 kind of thing, and most of these records I got for $5 or less kind of thing. So yeah, there's a 1969 copy of Matchbox, and then another 1969 of Yellow Submarine with Eleanor Rigby. And someone even told me when this came out in 1969, so thank you for that. Jumping back up to 81, we got a blue Starline label with stereo indicator of I'll Cry Instead and I'm Happy Just to Dance With You with the Starline sleeve. And again, this label also has some different variations. It has like a mono indicator instead of stereo, and then like an A prefix number, and then I think an X prefix number. So some variations within the variations, but I try not to worry about those tiny details yet until I get the main one. And this one was pretty cool. This is on the throwback rainbow label from '83 of Get Back with Don't Let Me Down. And then the interesting version about this 45 that it has the LP version of Get Back on it and not the single version. So that's pretty interesting and unique about that pressing. And then I did get one from Canada. And this won't be representing the whole series. I won't be getting all the series. This is the Heads picture sleeve of the Beatles Forever. And I actually thought I already had one of these, but apparently I didn't. So they had about 7 copies of these. This one happens to be Let It Be. And you know my name, look up the number. And I just kind of picked the best condition sleeve, which I think this one was. So there's the back. And there's the front. And then here's the 45 again. So this is a Canadian 45. And again, I don't really plan on getting all of these ones since they're all the same picture sleeve essentially. So I'll just have one to represent the series for my Canadian journey. And then lastly, my favorite find, this was kind of in the back behind the counter. He had a stack of 45s, some nicer ones. And I've been wanting this one for a while. I just haven't seen one out in the wild. And you might be thinking it's just the ATCO label, but it's not Ain't She Sweet. It is Sweet Georgia Brown, backed up with Take Out Some Insurance on Me Baby. And this was the tougher one to find with the Echo Beatles singles. So this version has the Roosevelt credit on the B side, and there's another credit for like a different variation. There's only two. So yeah, came with the company sleeve as well. So finally happy to add this one to the collection. And then we got a few LPs, and that was going to wrap it up for Folk Art Records. We'll start off with the solo album. Going through the John Lennon, they had about, as you could probably see, about 15 different variations of this album of Lies, Peace, in Toronto. But this one happened to be a UK first pressing. And the last time I was at this store, I actually got a Buku's of Blues first pressing from the UK. So nice to see some UK pressings out and about at a local record store. It didn't have the calendar in it, but I wasn't really too worried about that one. But it does have a nice laminated cover, if you can see that, on both sides. So nice to add some first UK pressings in the solo catalog. And then the other solo related type record I got, I just never picked up, and this was in the lower part of the main bin compartment, so I kind of snooped around through there since I had a little time. But this is the concert for people of Kampuchea, and you can see all of the bands there. This one was pretty cheap and it was in good shape, but it's got Paul McCartney and Wings on one side, and it's on the Atlantic label there. And then the only Beatles album I ended up getting, I did find a Something New reissue. This is on the Apple All Rights Reserved label from 1975. So if you look at the perimeter text there, that's the All Right Reserve. So this came out in 75. So I got a pretty decent haul from there. I was pretty well pleased with that record store, going back to it again. So I give that a few thumbs up there for that record store. And then so after that San Diego day, I went back to Los Angeles, spend one more day with my friend John, and then I was going to head back home from there. So on that last day, we were just kind of more or less hanging out, going through some of his records, and then I kind of surprised. It was like, well, do you want to go to Rockaway? Since I saw him at the record show, didn't really get to give him a chance to say goodbye. The owner, Gary, was always really nice, and I've been kind of in communications with him and keeping in touch over the past few years. So he was like, he'll be there until 4:30, and it was about 3:30. So I was like, yeah, sure, might as well. So I was kind of a surprise trip to Rockaway, and I'll show you what I got here. All right, so the few things I got from Rockaway definitely knocked off a few things off some lists, and I'm going to start off with the Lone 45 here. And again, I was going through some of my records before this trip, and I noticed that my "She Loves You" single was a counterfeit. I kind of realized that maybe a couple years ago, but it had a perforated edge, and I just never tracked down an original one. So I just pretty much trusted Gary would have one, and he did. And so this is an original "She Loves You" picture sleeve in nice shape. There's the front and the back. There's original black and silver swan label there. And I'll have some more info coming out about some things on the Swan Beatles on the Swan label here, because Swan and Tully never made any company sleeves. So me and my friend John were kind of like talking about that. So he kind of gave me the idea to kind of just maybe try to design some of my own company sleeves. So I kind of had some designs before I left for the trip, and now I kind of finalized some of those. So stay on the tune for that video. I might show some of my designs of those sleeves just for something kind of fun to add to, instead of a white plain sleeve, I can have a little swan design sleeve essentially. So stay tuned for that. But then I got two more items here, as I already kind of spent a good bit from other shows and record stores. So I think I got myself out of Rockaway not too bad. But this one is John Lennon, Happy Christmas, War's Over, and then Listen to Snow's Falling. This is a 1986 promo copy on white vinyl. So there you go. There's the hype sticker, and there's kind of the label. It's kind of the face label there, which is kind of silvery. And then Out in the Bins. Very excited to see this one, as it knocks off another record off my Canadian list. And you might be thinking it might be the Long Tall Sally, but no. This is the Beatles' second album, Canadian version. And the Canadian copies of Meet the Beatles and the second album came out in 1967 originally. So that is always kind of pretty cool. There's the printed in Canada right there. So that was interesting that they kind of went back and pressed Meet the Beatles instead of Beatlemania, and then the second album instead of Long Tall Sally again in the mid '60s. So that was kind of interesting. And then here is the Canadian Capitol label. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention about the Beatles' second album from Canada is that that was also the mono version, and I believe those are tougher to find than the as stereo was kind of being the new in thing, and mono was being phased out. So I believe even the mono versions are pretty tough to find. And I was going through back on Discogs. I don't think there's too much sales history there as well. So just a little tidbit there if you're out a Canadian collector or out and about. The mono one, it looks like only issued for a few months before stereo phased it out. So just a little tidbit there. And those are the few items I picked up. Again, I got to meet up with Gary, the owner there, and got to talk with him for a little bit more. Kind of thanked him for the records, and kind of staying in touch as he kind of gives me some good information and me asking questions kind of throughout the year and all that kind of stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this kind of all-encompassing type of video here. And again, stay tuned for more videos. I need to get everything organized and cleaned up. So I'm glad. Hope you guys are all patient for this video to come out. And then stay tuned for more videos, and keep a lookout for some Swan and Tolly kind of fantasy sleeves out and about. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.